Well, thank you for joining us today. I know we've got a fairly light group here, which means that lots of extra time for interaction and conversation. So please feel free to speak up. We'll also have the recording of this along with all the rest of our coffee break recordings on our website, so we can you can feel free to share this out with others or relook at it at your convenience. I would like to first just say thank you to Jesse here and do a quick introduction of my co-presenter, Jesse Slome. He is the Executive Director of the American Association for Medicare Supplement Insurance. He has helped me incredibly with this project and has really lent a good historical eye, I think, to the conversation as well. So I'm very happy to have him here to chime in as well. Jesse, do you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. I mean, for those of you who aren't aware, this organization was created at the request and behest of a number of key players in the MedSup arena. We do two things primarily. One, we run the annual industry conference, and I would tell anybody, if you're in the Chicago area, you should check out the website, because we actually have a completely free day, especially for agents and brokers. So that's really unique. And then for consumers, we provide information and host the only national directory where consumers can find local Medicare insurance agents, MA, MedSup, et cetera. So that's a real that's a real benefit to consumers, and also to we hope to agents who are listed.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, then we can advance, Quincy. A little background about what this is and what we're presenting today. So this research was done at the behest of a range of sponsors. There's distributors involved, FMOs, insurance carriers, and it was really done to answer a couple of key questions about the Medicare marketing and distribution space. So it's really about how do the different players within that space interact with each other, what are their needs, and what can be done to better support the entire kind of end-to-end sales and marketing process. So it's a pretty comprehensive survey, and it actually has 3 elements to it, which I'll go into in a few minutes here. But really the idea behind it was to set a baseline of understanding of the sales and distribution of Medicare products, and then to kind of set that baseline so we could do further research in the future that really can kind of dive into some of the details or the areas of interest. So the results really reaffirm, I think, a lot of what we know already about the space, about the different players in the space, and that's a good thing. That's what we hoped we would see. Beyond that, though, we were able to clarify a couple of other questions that our funders had, and hopefully those will be of interest to you. Some of those clarifications are, who are the brokers who are selling in this space? When we talk about brokers, are there different types of personas of brokers that we need to be thinking about that have different needs or support that they are expecting to get? Who are the consumers that are using different kinds of brokers or not using brokers? What are their expectations of those partners? And then finally, what can the distributors and the carriers do to better support the entire process and help each one of these kind of elements of the process to be smoother and have a better experience? And so with that lens in mind, we can go to the next slide. The 3 audiences that we talked to were consumers. We interviewed or surveyed 1,000 health plan consumers between 64 and 68 years old via an online survey. We did an online survey with brokers. We had over 500 brokers take our survey who sold Medicare. And we also had in-depth interviews with 5 different distributors who are at large national FMOs in the US. So the idea behind this was to get that 360 view and to ask them all similar kinds of questions to really understand what are those key moments in the process that we need to keep an eye on. Now, as you might imagine, it's a very comprehensive survey and there's a lot to it, way more than I can cover in 30 minutes and way more that can probably be covered in an hour. I have 3 giant reports. So really, this is going to be a 30,000-foot overview. A couple of the key things or themes that we've heard, and enough to pique your interest. If you have additional questions, feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to answer those. We can get you a copy of the report, et cetera. So with that in mind, I will start with just kind of the overall kind of industry trend overview. Consolidation is really the theme that we heard over and over in our FMO interviews and in the interviews that we did with agents. Technology was another major theme. Consolidation is really being driven over many years, and I think it's kind of culminated in this last year. I noticed in an industry M&A activity report that in 2020, 774 agencies of all insurance types were acquired, and that was up from about 640 the year prior. Agencies are more and more kind of being swallowed up by larger organizations, the FMOs. And these FMOs are doing a couple of things. They are offering better support and more technology support to brokers, but they're also kind of smoothing the process of sales with the carriers. And in addition to all of that, there's the technology angle that they're providing here. So there are the EFMOs, the call centers that we need to keep an eye on. All of these things together are really creating an environment of change, and one that is almost scary to the brokers and the agents we talk to. It's also scary to the agencies. They're not really sure what the future holds for them. And so I know Jesse has probably many hours worth of data points on this that he could share with us. But I think this is just to set the stage, to understand that the role of the broker really is changing. And one of the things we wanted to do in this survey is understand what is it changing towards, and what do brokers need to be doing to be prepared for that change. That's a note come up from Judy. Yes, you will have a copy of, well, see, I can send out a copy of this deck, that's fine. So you can keep moving. One of the reasons that there is such change and such a drive to consolidate in this industry is a lack of succession planning. We heard from the FMOs that they were surprised insurance carriers were allowing all of this in a way, but it really is because there has not been great succession planning in the industry. So brokers and agents have been retiring, and their books of business have just been kind of swallowed up by the FMOs. And because of that, it's it really kind of turned the tables of who's driving the bus here. And it's not about the change. We've got, from our survey, 44% of brokers are 60 years old or older. So they're heading towards that retirement age. And they aren't sure who to turn to for help when it comes to succession planning. So you've got 42% of brokers saying, I don't really know. Is it a GA? Is it a FMO that's going to help me? Is it the carrier that's going to help me? I don't know what's going to happen when I'm going to retire. So this is an area of opportunity, I think, for the industry to kind of get around this and decide kind of who is driving this bus, and make sure that's clearly communicated with the partners that they're working with. You can keep moving. So the role of the broker in the future is an interesting question. If you talk to brokers, 91% of them say that their role really isn't changing that much. It will continue to play as strong a role in Medicare sales as they always have. Virtual sales are the future for only about 46% of them. So from the broker's point of view, they really have not changed in importance. From the consumer point of view, we've got 57% of people saying that they do need an agent's help in addition to the online tools that they have. So there's a little bit of disconnect here. And I think that's one of the things that we wanted to dig into in this survey, but also in future surveys, to really understand when are the moments in time when a broker is of greatest use to a consumer, and which consumers. Are there certain kinds of consumers that really are not going to be using a broker ever? And if so, can the attention be really redirected towards those who will? Or alternatively, can brokers be offering something else, some other additional service that will make them more of a valued partner to consumers as they make decisions going forward? Before we move on, I want to ask Jesse, high level point of view, what's your take on kind of this role of the broker in the future?
Yeah, I think the past year, COVID and really the evolution of the industry has marked a significant change. I think perhaps agents and brokers are a lot more optimistic than they should be because they're not really seeing the competition that's out there. And so I'm not pessimistic about the role of brokers. I'm actually optimistic, but I believe that what it's going to take is equal marketing and positioning. What I call it, everybody has seen the Joe Namath ad. So we know, how strong that ad is, and that's an inducement to a consumer to call a call center. And you're going to see more of that. Brokers are going to need to counteract that with marketing of their own, which talks about why you want to work with a local professional. So if you don't do that 57% number of consumers who are comfortable using online tools will grow more and more in the future. So, it's not pessimistic, it's just marketing, and one has to be proactive as you build your business.
Mm-hmm. I could ask the audience, do you have any thoughts or questions in your reaction to just kind of the role of the broker in the future? No immediate thoughts. Okay, we'll keep moving then. As I said, there's a lot of data. So what I've tried to do is just give you 3 or 4 slides from the broker report and 3 or 4 slides from the consumer report to pull out a couple of the highlights. We'll start with the brokers. As a reminder, we did survey about 500 brokers. These brokers were sourced through a number of different channels. We used our own broker panel, the association's email list, a third-party vendor, and some other places. So in all, it's a pretty good cross-section of independent brokers out there. And I do want to stress they're independent. We really didn't have more than a few percentage points of captive agents in our sample. So this is really the perspective of independent agents. So these brokers really fell into 3 buckets. The specialists who really focus on Medicare, those who do Medicare sales, but also are willing to do a lot of other sales. They're more of a retirement specialist. And then the generalist, who's a very passive kind of Medicare sale broker. If we look at the first group, it was about 1/3 of the brokers that we interviewed. They are very much focused on individual products, Medicare focused. They are not actively looking to cross-sell to their Medicare clients. They're not looking to cross-sell other products. It's kind of a one and done sale. They also tend to do more Medicare Advantage sales than Medicare sub sales. Retirement specialists were 45% of the brokers who answered our survey. They do a lot of individual products. They do some group products as well though. And they have the largest variety of product sales. So they do everything from hospital indemnity to life insurance to short-term disability, long-term disability, in addition to Medicare. They're selling group Medicare, they're selling group health insurance. It's really the gamut. And they're very comfortable having those conversations about the other aspects of retirement, the financial side of retirement. They're talking about financial planning in retirement. They're talking about HSAs and how to use those in retirement. These folks are really looking to cross-sell. They're looking to grow their business, and they're looking for help to do that. On the last column here is, it's the smallest percentage of our brokers that answered our survey. They do have a slightly higher concentration in group products than the other 2 groups. They do sell a large variety of products, but not typically the financial products. These folks do not appear to be actively looking to cross-sell business, nor really actively looking to build their Medicare book of business. They'll do it when there's an opportunity, but it's not like they're asking for help to do advertising and marketing campaigns. It's more of a, we need agent servicing when we call them. So each of these different groups have a different set of needs when it comes to FMOs and carriers, and they're looking to have a different kind of conversation with the end consumer. Depending on who you're trying to focus on, it's helpful to know these, and I'll try to call out some differences between them as we go through. There's a lot more in the actual report, so if you are looking for more detail, just let me know. But for now, we can keep moving. So what do brokers prioritize when it comes to evaluating a carrier and which ones to recommend to clients? The number one thing that, and this is probably obvious, that they're looking at price and affordability of the plans that they're going to recommend. They're also looking at the products themselves. Are they, do they have a mix of products, HMOs, PPOs? Are there competitive offerings? Are they, it's a very kind of product-centric discussion. These 2 things seem fairly straightforward and obvious. I think what really is more enlightening is when you look at this from the perspective of the different segments of brokers. For instance, if you look at brokers who are focusing on Medicare Advantage sales, they're most likely to first evaluate plans based on the products offered. So they're looking at line 2 there first before they're even looking at plan price or reputation or any of these other items. And I think it's because of that products offered, including competitive offerings, the kind of add-ons to products. It seems like that might be of more interest to them when they're trying to compare things. As opposed to the Medicare Advantage folks, the folks who focus more on Medicare Supplement product sales are more likely to first evaluate plans based on the plan price and affordability and the carrier's financial stability. So knowing some of the intricacies and the differences between the brokers themselves, I think helps shed more light on how you can better position as a carrier your products to brokers who are looking to recommend them. Jesse, I'll do the next one and then I'll ask for your opinion on both this and how they prioritize FMO partners as well. So we asked a very similar question when it comes to evaluating general agency or FMO partners. What do brokers look for? And this is the ranking. You see that a quarter of them are looking first and foremost for agent servicing. Relationships come second, ease of doing business, training. But really what's interesting about this is when you look at the individual groupings of broker types. So for example, Medicare specialists are significantly more likely to say that they evaluate FMOs based on their training and their access to online digital sales support than the other two types of brokers. So if you're looking at one of these lifestyle brokers who's really just focused on the Medicare business on its own, they are looking for training, they're looking for sales support. Retirement specialists, on the other hand, are looking more towards flexibility in commission and having a good carrier relationship. They're more likely than the others to kind of prioritize that. And generalists are really looking for that agent servicing. So again, depending on if you're an FMO, what you're trying to achieve, it's important to know who you're talking to and make sure you're aligning the tools and support to those needs. Now, Jesse, I know you said that some of this is obvious to you being in the industry. I think it's helpful for you to, I apologize, Judy. An FMO is a marketing organization that supports brokers who are selling Medicare products. So Jesse, maybe you could just chime in quickly and give me your thoughts on what is obvious about this and maybe what stuck out to you, if anything.
Who get and participate in the deeper dive of information will be able to use the information to their advantage because, you know, this is always a current snapshot. It's always a moving target. From everybody that I've talked to, servicing and training and online digital tools all are going to play a greater part going forward. You know, as I said, the past year has just accelerated where the world is going. And so you will see, you know, if you do this survey 2 years from now, my prediction is that you will see the importance of online and digital tools become probably the #1, because there will be some that will be selected as excellent. There'll be more that are out there and some that people look and say they're not happy with. And so you'll start to see brokers who will make their decisions on what FMO channel, what GA channel they want to work with based on the technology. That will be how they view agent servicing. So, you know, and commission and compensation structure will be, you know, is somewhat level. So that doesn't surprise me. The other thing that I think will be increasingly important to agents and brokers is what I'll call lead generation support. You know, and I leave that as all encompassing. Because in a highly competitive market where a broker's competition is spending hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars a year on generating Medicare leads, you know, the support to be successful in that competitive landscape, I think will play an increasingly important role. I don't think you'll see it at the bottom. I think you'll see it closer to the top.
Jesse, Do you mind if I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, I'm asking a lot of questions, but I'm just wondering how many brokers, agents does your association represent?
So we don't have membership. I just chose not to do that. But I can tell you that that there are nearly 1,000 brokers, agents who are listed on the Med Sup directory. And so they actually view that as membership. We provide whatever research, whatever support we do, just generally to everybody. We provide extra support to the brokers and agents who are listed on the directory.
Thank you.
Why don't we keep moving? We only have about 8 minutes left and some more to cover, so I'll try to get through this next piece. We did get into more details in the survey about what actual support's needed. So 56% are looking for marketing support, lead generation, access to tech tools. These things differ obviously by the type of broker. So it's helpful to kind of see the breakdown of the brokers as well. I will call out, we did kind of dive into marketing support some more too and say, well, what marketing support do you need? Plan comparison tools for the area really stuck out. That seems to be, not just having access to the large top 5 carriers, but if they could get the local carriers on their listings. And I know there's a lot of tools that are being developed for this. And to a large extent, some of this is covered, but 36% of brokers really see that as a need for them when it comes to marketing support. And then co-op marketing funds. This is kind of piecemeal in how it's offered up. We did dive in and ask, well, what would you do with those co-op dollars? The Medicare specialists, a quarter of them said that they would use it for advertising, as did generalists. But retirement specialists would use it for lead generation. So again, kind of looking at who we're talking about, these needs change a bit. We can keep going. This next section is on consumers. So as a reminder, we surveyed about 1,000 consumers between 64 and 68. Part of the reason we included that aging in consumer is because we wanted to find out how their expectations and needs of brokers were kind of at the beginning of the process, and then we could compare that over time to as they've aged past the initial 65-year-old mark. So 3 consumer types. Again, thinking about this from the lens of distribution and consumption of the product. The Medicare newbies, that kind of first crowd, these are the people who don't really understand Medicare very well. They tend to be younger, as you'd expect. They're relying on brokers' help. 8 in 10 are relying on the broker's help. They're the least confident in their plan choice, and they're the most likely to still be in a group plan. So they are really looking for that support to make the transition, just like you'd expect. The guided Medicare consumer is a little bit older, they've aged in, but they still want the help. So they're still relying on the broker. They're pretty confident that they got the right plan, but they still want to make sure every year that they go back. They also have a higher likelihood to become than one of these other consumer groups. Partly probably because they are having this advice and that broker is able to really help them understand what those plan differences are. The do-it-yourself Medicare consumer, this was the largest group of our sample, and they're a little bit older. They're in that same 66-year-old range. 2 in 10 are relying on a broker's help. They really feel confident that they have it on their own. When we ask them why they don't use a broker, they said, because I know what I'm choosing. They're more likely to be on a Med Advantage plan. Let's just keep moving. Quincy, thanks. This is one of those numbers that makes you think, it stuck out to both me and Jesse. You've got 44% of people today who used a broker in their last enrollment for Medicare. And that's 53% who didn't. They're getting their help from somewhere, right? They're calling in to a call center. I think Jesse's judgment was that this is going to change and continue to grow. That pie is going to get more and more blue over time. And I think that's really where the brokers need to think about what's the value they're bringing to the conversation. When we talk to those who are planning to use a broker in the future, among those who are in the agents, it's not a huge number compared to the no's, right? There's a lot of not sure's and no's in that group. So I think the broker really understanding what value they can bring to the table will be of utmost importance. Jesse, do you have a couple? Comments?
Yeah, no, it's there's no question in my mind. You know, as I said, we've run the conference, the MedSup Industry Conference, and that just focuses on MedSup for years. And over the years, I've sort of been doing an informal survey of what percentage of sales are online, call center, et cetera. And it used to be 20, 30%. Today, it's significantly more. So that's why, yes, that blew in with a lack of a concerted effort to educate the consumer of the value of a broker, that blue will grow. The hard part is that the insurance companies who do the most generic advertising are either going to advertise their product, you know, their description is "we love everybody," and they have to, because their sales are going to be made by all the different channels. So it's going to be very interesting what, you know, how brokers start to emerge. And even the FMOs, all the major FMOs that are consolidating are all buying or creating, they're all call centers. They're hedging their bets in terms of which way it goes. So if you're an independent broker looking at this, I would say, you know, the onus is on you. We're trying to do some of that for those who are listed as well. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting, the next 5 years will be very interesting. And especially, as I say, if the Medicare enrollment age drops to 60, you're just going to see you know, more money being dumped into this potential market than ever before. Mm-hmm. Stay tuned.
Let's keep going. There is a value, though, that I think carriers and brokers can be bringing to the table. This is from the carrier perspective. 97% of customers really are looking for brand, right? When they trust a brand, that's what they're looking for. And 54% of people who are aging in want to hear from their current carrier. So their group plan under 65 carrier, they want to know what Medicare plans they offer. Of course, all done legally in a legally informed way. But I think this is a really critical moment for people, especially because that is the moment that they're most willing to take advice, and you're setting up that relationship going forward. So from a broker's perspective, if you can have a very informed conversation with somebody at that turning point and you can show value, you could potentially have a customer going forward. And for carriers, it's really an opportunity, I think, to do a better job of telling their own current members, hey, by the way, we have Medicare plans, and you could stay with us and you could still have this great experience that you like and you want. You can still have it going forward. Go on. I only have 1 minute left, so really fast. I think that the element of interest here for brokers is how to set that relationship up. So we were trying to break down who are the people who are using brokers and how many times do they want to be contacted? Is there anything to differentiate that? So among those who are using brokers, you've got about 2/3 who do want some sort of, or maybe half, who are looking for some sort of conversation to happen after enrollment. This is really important. And if that conversation is done right, then I think these people will be lifelong customers. For those people who have a broker or who are in that kind of early stage of retirement planning, they're more interested in having conversations with brokers more often. So people who are trying to be thoughtful about retirement want to have help and they want the guidance. And I think being able to meet that need with products that make sense. I know Matt's on, he and I'll do a webinar at some point about some financial products he has in mind that are really based on all this health information that we have about consumers. Brokers can carry that conversation on, and they can be of value to people for a long period of time, well beyond Medicare, right? And I think that's the critical piece. Are you just selling Medicare, or are you a partner for these retirees? I don't think, is there another slide here? They're all good. So we are exactly at 11:30. Sorry for rushing that last slide. Any questions, additional questions that we should address?
Well, I'm sorry if I'm monopolizing, but I'll ask one more. Is Medicare or healthcare a new practice for the Greenwald firm? I don't remember seeing this kind of research before.
So great question. We have a very well-developed 35-year history in retirement work, but never Medicare work. So we've done healthcare, all of the kind of under 65 products, and we've done all the retirement financial products. And so we wanted to fill this own gap in our own kind of resume, make sure we have it.
That's terrific. I mean, I represent the financial side, and I know your work very well in retirement, and seen Matt for years, but hadn't seen you focus on Medicare before.
Yeah. Well, we hope to do more of this in the future. And I know Matt's got some great ideas that kind of bridges that health and wealth gap for retirees.
Good for you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Judy. And it's good to see you and a couple of other old friends. I don't mean old, just long-term. We're intrigued by this for a number of reasons, so we just got into this. But one possibility is here's a distribution system that may be interested, or some of them are interested in cross-selling, and there might be opportunities for them as a distribution system for retirement products. So that's something we're going to be thinking more about and trying to develop. But again, thanks for the question, Judy, and good to see you. Good to hear from you.